Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to show you guys how to make this delicious pumpkin cinnamon swirl sourdough bread. It is so delicious, perfect with some cream cheese early in the morning. So let's get started. We're going to start off with our active starter. We're going to use 100 grams of starter and we're going to use 240 grams of filtered water. I usually warm up my water if I am going to be mixing this dough during the daytime so it can, bulk ferment faster. But since I am going to be leaving this overnight, I am doing room temperature water. And I go ahead and mix the starter and the water together until I get this milky consistency. Once I finish mixing this up, I go ahead and add 25 grams of sugar. You can also replace the sugar with maple syrup or honey, but I didn't have either of those. So I just used sugar and it tastes the same. It tastes good either way. So use whatever you have or whatever is your preference. So once you're done putting the sugar, I go ahead and mix it again. Once it's very well mixed up, then I go ahead and add 200 grams of pumpkin puree. Make sure that this is not pumpkin pie like filling or puree. Just make sure it's 100% pumpkin puree, if that makes sense. So we add 200 grams of that. We go ahead and mix it. And then once it's mixed, we're going to go ahead and add our flour. So I add 500 grams of flour and then I add 12 grams of salt. So now that we have all the ingredients in the bowl, I go ahead and mix everything together. I mix as best as I can until I see no more flour. It's easy to tell with this dough because of the color of the pumpkin puree. So once you're done with that, we're going to go ahead and cover it with any cloth, any towel, anything that you have. But this is how the dough looks when it's very well combined. No more flour anywhere. And now I go ahead and cover it and let it sit on the counter for 1 hour. And then I start with my stretch and folds. So I wet my hands a little bit to do the stretch and folds and it helps a lot with the sticking. So go ahead and try that. This recipe doesn't really have a lot of water because of the pumpkin puree that we added. So it's not really sticking to my hands, which is really nice. So this is the first stretch and fold. And then after the first one, I wait 30 minutes to do my second stretch and fold. So I usually do 4 stretch and folds, but today I didn't really have the time because it was almost bedtime and I ended up doing only 3. So this one right here is the second stretch and fold. I'm going to show you guys that way you guys can see how the dough changes a little bit, but for the most part, like, it's so easy. Just go ahead go around the bowl 4 times, stretch it, close it, and you're done. So this one right here is the third and final stretch and fold that I did. And just same old. Go around the bowl 4 times. I think this time around I did like a few extra stretch and folds just because I knew I wasn't going to do the 4th stretch and fold. So, do what works for you. I'm not really like super strict about like doing things. I'll do things on my own time. I control the sourdough doesn't control me. I'm just kidding. I like to follow a lot of the, I guess, quote unquote rules because, I like to keep it, I don't know, traditional. Is it the word traditional? I'm not sure. But anyway, so I let the dough bulk ferment on my counter overnight and then I take it out in the morning and shape it. So you're going to see right here how easy the dough comes out of my bowl. And then the little bit that's left over in the bowl, I go ahead and use a plastic bench scraper to get the little bits out and put it with my dough. So I go ahead and stretch out my dough as best as I can. And for the inclusions, I add 70 grams of brown sugar and 5 grams of cinnamon and 5 grams of pumpkin spice. I added everything in this little measuring cup and then I mixed it And then I go ahead and use that same measuring cup to like distribute it onto my dough. That way it's easy because it has a little like point. So I can like put it exactly where I want it on the dough, just because brown sugar tends to get like watery, liquidy when you put it on the dough. So I'm very, very careful when it comes to adding sugar in my bread recipes. So I just go ahead and roll it like a cinnamon roll, I guess, in a way. Because when I do it the other way, like the regular way where you just like fold it twice, 3 times, and then you like shape it, my inclusions don't come out like the little swirl. You can't really see it. I don't know why. So I started doing this for my inclusions and it works. So if you're having trouble with that, maybe give this little trick a try and maybe it'll work for you too. It's not perfect like the swirl, but it looks better than what it used to, because when I would do the same kind of like shaping, I guess, as the regular like sourdough loaves, I don't know, it just I wouldn't see the swirl. The inclusions would just come out on top. It was weird. So I go ahead and shape this dough as best as I can without pulling too much, because the sugar, like I said, will melt. Like it will get super liquidy and messy. So I left it as it is. I put a little bit of flour on top. And then when I put it into the bowl, you're going to see there was like a little hole already like stretching and ripping. So I stitched that up as best as I could. That way, you know, like all the cinnamon sugar wouldn't come out of the dough and mess up my banneton. I should have put it in a silicone banneton, but I thought about it too late. Anyways, so I go ahead and cover up that hole as best as I can. And I put it in the Ziploc bag and I put it in my fridge for a few hours. And then once I was ready to bake, I took it out and I preheated my oven to 450 with my Dutch oven in there. And then I scored it a little bit. I try not to do like too many crazy scores because the sugar would just like start leaking everywhere. So I try to do like the minimum or like very minimal scoring. So here's the dough. You can see that it was starting to rip from the bottom technically, but it was fine. I put a little flour, I scored it, and I put it in the oven for 30 minutes with the lid on. And then I took off the lid and I think I did an additional 5 minutes, just because I've noticed that when I bake sourdough with sugar inclusions, the sugar sometimes gets like dark really fast and it doesn't look pretty. So you could tell right here that it was getting kind of dark already with only 5 minutes. And I just pulled it out, I let it cool down, and here we go. Here is the inside. You can see the little swirls on both ends. You know, I'm trying to get better at the, you know, swirl inclusions part, but it was so, so good. I hope you guys give this recipe a try. Let me know. It's perfect right now for the holidays. You know, it gives like pumpkin pie vibes. So, you know, go ahead and try it. Let me know what you think. And thank you for watching this video. And I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.